Imagine, if you will, a childhood measured not in the innocent milestones of lost teeth or first bike rides, but in the sterile click of a suitcase latch, the unfamiliar scent of a new home, and the polite, often distant smiles of yet another set of strangers. For a boy named Jamal, this wasn't a fleeting nightmare. It was the relentless rhythm of his reality. From the tender age when most children are learning to trust, Jamal was perfecting the art of adaptation, of packing light, of becoming a chameleon in an ever-changing landscape. His earliest memories weren't of a warm, consistent embrace, but of perpetually waking up in unfamiliar rooms, the morning light painting different patterns on different walls, each one a silent reminder of impermanence. He'd learned quickly that hope, in his world, was a dangerous luxury. It was a fragile seed that, once planted, would inevitably be uprooted, leaving behind a hollow ache. He'd seen it in the eyes of other children in foster homes, the fleeting flicker of excitement when a new family came, only to be replaced by the dull ache of disappointment when they moved on. So Jamal built walls, brick by invisible brick, around his heart, not out of malice, but out of a desperate need for self-preservation. These walls were his armor against the sting of transient affections, against the gnawing uncertainty that made the vast, beautiful world around him feel not like an adventure, but a daunting and tumultuous maze. He yearned for something as fundamental as a fixed point, a north star in his constantly shifting sky. And in that turbulent sky, there was indeed one small, faded star, a tiny, creased photograph. The edges were worn smooth from countless nights spent clutched tight in his hand, and the colors had softened with time, but to Jamal, it was a priceless treasure, a tangible whisper from a life he could barely recall. It was a picture of a smiling young couple, their faces radiating a warmth that somehow, even through the faded emulsion, still reached him. These were his biological parents. He couldn't conjure the sound of their voices or the feeling of their touch, but that photo was a lifeline, a fragile link to a time when life, he imagined, was simpler, filled with an unconditional love that had since vanished like smoke. At night, in the quiet solitude of yet another temporary bedroom, he would pull it from its hiding place beneath his pillow, tracing the outlines of their faces, trying desperately to remember, or perhaps just to imagine, the warmth of their embrace. It was his anchor, a silent promise that somewhere, somehow, he belonged. His journey through the system was a cruel mosaic of fleeting moments. Some homes were filled with other foster kids, where evenings were a bittersweet symphony of whispered stories about past placements and fragile dreams of a stable future. He'd listen, his own experiences echoing theirs, a shared understanding forged in the crucible of instability. Other times, he was an only child, soaking in the temporary, undivided attention, yet always fearful of the next inevitable transition. Each new placement meant a fresh set of house rules, unspoken expectations, and the daunting task of deciphering the rhythms of a new household. He was like a leaf blown by an unseen wind, constantly striving to find his place within these varied tempos, forever bracing for the gust that would carry him to the next unknown. This constant state of adaptation, while making him incredibly resilient, also chipped away at the very core of what a child needs most: a secure base from which to explore the world. He was exploring, yes, but it felt less like an adventure and more like a never-ending survival mission. This unending cycle of impermanence had etched deep lines onto Jamal's young soul, creating a silent strength but also a profound weariness. He was a survivor, undeniably, but what he craved more than anything was to stop surviving and simply, truly live. He longed for a sanctuary, a haven where the walls weren't built by fear, but by the solid foundation of belonging. He longed for faces that didn't just smile politely, but genuinely loved, consistently, forever. And perhaps, just perhaps, he was about to find it. The shifting sands of his past were about to meet something unexpected, something solid, something that might just change the very ground beneath his feet. The rotation of homes and families had almost become a routine for Jamal, each one leaving a unique, albeit often fleeting, imprint on his young soul. He'd seen all kinds of foster parents, the overwhelmed, the well-meaning but distant, the truly kind but ultimately temporary. Nothing, however, could quite prepare him for the day he met the Matthews. Mr. and Mrs. Matthews weren't like the others. They were an endearing elderly couple, their faces lined with the wisdom of years, not the weary creases of stress, and their eyes sparkled with a kindness that felt, to Jamal, almost disarming. Their children had long since grown up and started their own families, leaving the couple in the echoing silence of a home that once brimmed with laughter and youthful chaos. Now, a quiet longing for purpose settled in its spacious rooms. Jamal, with his defensive walls firmly in place, entered the Matthews home with the usual caution he'd honed over years. He'd learned the hard way that hope could be a dangerous thing, a cruel trick of the light that promised warmth only to leave you colder when it vanished. Yet, there was something about the Matthews that gradually, almost imperceptibly, began to chip away at his carefully constructed defenses. It wasn't one grand gesture, no sudden pronouncements of undying love. It was the small, consistent acts, the quiet rhythms of their days that spoke volumes. Perhaps it was the way Mrs. Matthews would hum a soft lullaby as she prepared dinner, her gentle melody weaving through the kitchen, a stark contrast to the usual clatter and hurried silence he was accustomed to, or how Mr. Matthews patiently taught him to tend to the small backyard garden, talking about each plant as if it were a dear old friend. His voice calm and steady, never rushing, never demanding, these were foreign concepts to Jamal. Consistent presence, unhurried attention, unconditional patience. The couple seemed to possess an uncanny understanding of Jamal's unspoken yearnings. They didn't pry. They simply were. They offered a quiet, unwavering stability, a gentle warmth that seeped into the cracks of his guarded heart. It was a subtle shift, like the sun slowly melting the last patches of snow after a long winter. One evening, as the golden hues of sunset painted the sky in streaks of orange and purple, Jamal found himself, hesitantly, pulling out his most cherished possession, the photograph of his parents. He held it out, a silent offering, a piece of his vulnerable past. Mrs. Matthews, her voice filled with an emotion Jamal couldn't quite name, whispered, "Everyone deserves a place where they truly belong, dear." It wasn't a question or a demand, but a profound statement of empathy, and it was then, in that shared quiet moment, that Jamal felt a sensation he had almost forgotten, a warmth that spread through him, undeniable and profound, the warmth of genuine, uncomplicated love. The Matthews, sensing the deep, profound void in Jamal's heart and recognizing a quiet, reciprocal void in their own, made a heartfelt decision. They wanted to offer Jamal something he had craved for so long: stability, love, and a forever home. It wasn't a casual thought. It was a deeply considered promise, born from a place of genuine compassion and a quiet yearning to fill their lives with purpose again. In that shared space of vulnerability and burgeoning hope, a new chapter began for both Jamal and the Matthews, one where the harsh, rigid lines between foster care and a real family started to blur, bound instead by a promise of forever, spoken not in words, but in the gentle rhythm of their everyday lives. This was more than just a placement. It felt like a beginning, a fragile yet resilient seedling of hope finally taking root in fertile ground. The courthouse on that significant day was not just a building of bricks and mortar, but a sanctum of life-altering decisions. Its grand architecture, usually intimidating, seemed to resonate with a peculiar blend of tension and hope that hummed in the very air. Everywhere one looked, people bustled about, attorneys with their polished shoes and briefcases, their voices hushed as they discussed case details. Social workers, their faces a canvas of empathy and determination, guiding anxious families and hopeful parents, their hands often clenching and unclenching in anticipation, whispers of dreams and futures echoing softly throughout the halls. Jamal, though just a child amidst this adult world, felt the immense weight of the day on his small shoulders. He had painstakingly chosen his best outfit, hoping to make a good impression, to signal that he was ready, capable, worthy of this chance. Yet, underneath the carefully constructed semblance of calm, his heart raced like a trapped bird. The photograph, his only tangible connection to a distant past, felt warm from his grip, securely tucked away in his pocket. It was more than just a picture. It was a piece of his identity, a symbol of hope, of a lost love, and the bittersweet pain of memories that refused to fully form. The courtroom itself, with its imposing wooden paneling and stern decor, was filled to capacity. There was a palpable sense of expectation in the air, a collective holding of breath. All eyes turned to the judge as she took her seat. Judge Harper. Her reputation preceded her. She was known to be strict, unyielding in her pursuit of legal fairness, yet everyone knew her decisions were always, above all, in the best interest of the child. Her steely gaze swept the room, taking in every face, every nervous fidget, finally resting on Jamal. The formality of the setting, the hushed whispers, the intense focus of the room, all combined to amplify the moment's gravity for the young boy. With the necessary formalities out of the way, the moment of truth approached. Judge Harper, her voice steady and clear despite the hum of anticipation, posed the first crucial question to Jamal, trying to gauge his understanding of the momentous decision ahead. His affirmative nod, though silent, spoke volumes of his comprehension, signaling that he knew what was at stake. However, when the subsequent question came, "Jamal, do you wish to be a part of the Matthews family?" the carefully maintained composure he had practiced so diligently crumbled. The full weight of the years spent in foster care, the relentless longing for a permanent home, the overwhelming, dizzying nature of the situation bore down on him with crushing force. The room, which had been holding its collective breath, hung on the precipice of his answer. As the tears, raw and unfiltered, pooled in his eyes, a profound silence enveloped the courtroom. It was a silence that spoke of empathy, of anticipation, and of shared, unspoken hopes. Jamal's emotions, a torrent of buried hurt and desperate yearning, culminated in a single word. It was a word that wasn't just spoken. It was ripped from the deepest, most vulnerable part of his soul, echoing through the hushed room with a heartbreaking clarity. Mama. It wasn't just a word. It was an avalanche of feelings, a plea for comfort, a desperate question for a love he'd only dreamed of, and a yearning for a semblance of normalcy he'd never known. The stern facade of Judge Harper wavered for a moment, her eyes reflecting the profound, unexpected impact of that one single word. The room, already silent, seemed to plunge into an even deeper stillness, as if time itself held its breath, witnessing this raw, unscripted moment of pure human connection. Regaining her composure, her voice surprisingly gentle, the judge prodded Jamal to clarify, and again, with a voice laced with vulnerability, yet shining with a fragile hope, he repeated, "Mama." And in those repeated words lay Jamal's entire world, his dreams of bedtime stories, of being tucked in at night with comforting security, of shared laughter that didn't feel temporary, and of the comforting hugs that only a mother could give. It was a reflection of his arduous journey, the highs and lows, the fleeting moments of happiness, and the all-too-familiar pangs of loneliness. That day, the courthouse bore witness to more than just an adoption hearing. It saw the breathtaking power of raw emotion, the undeniable depth of human connection, and the indomitable spirit of a young boy yearning with every fiber of his being for a place to finally call home. The simple word "mama" transcended legalities and touched hearts, reminding everyone present of the fundamental human need to love and be loved. The atmosphere in the courtroom was thick, almost tangible, with emotion. And the judge's sudden, unexpected adjournment, moments later, only added to the sense of something truly profound, something life-altering, unfolding before their very eyes. The stage was set not just for a legal decision, but for a revelation that would reshape destinies. The atmosphere in the courtroom was thick with emotion, a tangible wave that had settled over everyone present. The judge's sudden adjournment, abrupt and unprecedented, added to the sense of something profound unfolding, a deliberate pause in the legal dance. As the murmurs of the audience slowly faded, replaced by hushed whispers and curious glances, Mrs. Matthews, her heart aching with a mother's urgency to comfort, rushed towards Jamal. The few steps between them seemed to stretch, laden with unspoken understanding. She enveloped him in a warm embrace, her own tears mixing with his, a silent acknowledgement of the raw, simple, yet powerful utterance of "Mama." It wasn't just a call for maternal love. It was Jamal's heart crying out for the consistent warmth, safety, and understanding that had eluded him for so many years. Away from the courtroom's prying eyes, in a move that surprised everyone, Judge Harper beckoned Jamal and the Matthews to her private chamber. The room, usually a place of stern decisions and professional detachment, now became a sanctuary of shared vulnerability, its heavy wooden door clicking shut with a soft finality. As the echoes faded, the judge, her usually unyielding posture slightly slouched, began to unravel a story that none present had anticipated. Her voice, stripped of its judicial authority, was laced with a quiet sorrow. She spoke of a time many years ago when life had presented her with a series of challenges she felt ill-equipped to handle. As a young woman, circumstances had prevented her from raising a child, and with a heavy heart she had made the painful decision to give her son up for adoption. The details of her story were punctuated with pauses, each silent moment filled with years of suppressed anguish and longing. Each day since had been a battle against memories, against the haunting what-ifs, against the piercing pain of maternal love denied its full expression. The judge's eyes, which had always been a beacon of authority and decisiveness in the courtroom, now shimmered with unshed tears of regret. "Seeing Jamal," she continued, her voice choked with emotion, "reminded me so much of my own son. The same age he would have been, the same look of seeking, of hoping. It was as if fate itself had conspired to bring Jamal into her courtroom, not just as a painful reminder of her past, but as a mirror reflecting the raw, aching reality of unfulfilled maternal love." For the Matthews, this revelation painted the judge in an entirely new light. Behind the robe and gavel, she was a mother haunted by choices made in the face of adversity, a woman carrying a silent burden for decades. Mrs. Matthews, without a word, reached out her hand, gently squeezing the judge's. It was a gesture that transcended words, a shared understanding between two mothers from different walks of life. One had yearned for a child she couldn't have, the other was on the brink of welcoming a child in search of love. Jamal, absorbing the weight of this confession, felt a strange, profound connection with the judge. In her story, he saw haunting parallels with his own journey, choices made on his behalf, separation from biological ties, and a shared, desperate quest for closure. The chamber, filled with the heavy resonance of shared stories and interwoven destinies, became a sacred space of healing. The judge's tale, while intensely painful, served as an unexpected bridge, uniting her, Jamal, and the Matthews in an intricate tapestry of love, loss, and hope. It was a poignant reminder that behind even the sternest facades often lie stories of heartache, and that love, in all its forms, possesses the quiet, undeniable power to heal the deepest wounds. But the story wasn't over. In the quiet sanctity of the judge's chamber, a series of unexpected truths began to unfold, stitching together fragments of forgotten pasts into a breathtaking tapestry of revelation. Documents were brought forward, painting a chronological story that none had foreseen. Jamal, with his innocent eyes and fervent hopes, was not just another child in the courtroom. He was the judge's blood, her lineage, her grandson. It was discovered that the son the judge had painfully given up all those years ago had grown up, fallen in love, and had a son, Jamal. Tragically, a fateful accident had claimed the lives of Jamal's parents, thrusting him into the unpredictable maze of foster care. The irony of fate was palpable, almost cruel. The grandson of a judge, someone whose very role was to provide justice and balance within the system, had been lost amidst that very system, desperately searching for love and a place to call home. The weight of the revelation was immense. Judge Harper, always a pillar of strength and poise, now grappled with the enormity of the situation. For her, it was not just about reconciling with the pain of giving up her son, but the compounded agony of realizing her own flesh and blood had been wandering, seeking solace in an unstable world. The circle of life had, in a strange, miraculous twist of events, brought Jamal right to her doorstep, not as a petitioner in her courtroom, but as a beacon of lost love, a living testament to a past she had desperately tried to bury. The weight of the revelation was immense, settling over Judge Harper like a profound, bittersweet cloak. For her, it was not just about finally reconciling with the pain of giving up her son decades ago, but the compounded agony of realizing her own flesh and blood had been wandering, seeking solace in an unstable world, lost within the very system she oversaw. The universe, in a strange karmic twist, had brought Jamal right to her doorstep, not as a petitioner in her courtroom, but as a living, breathing beacon of lost love, a tangible link to a past she had desperately tried to bury. The Matthews, witnessing this profound, almost unbelievable revelation, felt a myriad of emotions. While they had already embraced Jamal with open, unconditional hearts, understanding the deeper biological connection he now had with Judge Harper made their commitment even more significant. They realized that adopting Jamal wasn't just about filling the quiet void in their lives. It was also about mending a broken chain, about restoring a family torn apart by circumstances and time. Their love for Jamal deepened, stretching to encompass this unexpected yet vital new dimension. As the days rolled on and the legal procedures progressed, Jamal's adoption by the Matthews was formalized. The courtroom, once a place of tense anticipation, now bore witness to a joyous, albeit unconventional beginning. However, Judge Harper, given this miraculous second chance at connection, was determined not to remain a mere spectator in Jamal's life. While the law named the Matthews as his parents, she took on an equally essential, deeply cherished role, that of a grandmother, a guardian, a beacon of wisdom and love. The bond was immediate and profound. Jamal, having yearned for deep roots, found profound solace in her embrace. Stories of his father, told through his grandmother's vivid tales, and the warmth of a biological family in her presence, began to fill the silent, empty spaces within him. The Matthews home, which had already welcomed Jamal with open arms, soon echoed with a richer laughter, the lively banter of 3 generations blending seamlessly. Sundays, in particular, became special. Jamal would be regaled with stories of his father as a child, mischievous tales, heartwarming anecdotes, and of the judge's own youth, stories that painted a vibrant picture of a world that once was. Judge Harper, with her years of experience and wisdom, provided a grounding influence, a steady hand ensuring that Jamal grew up with a strong sense of identity and belonging, rooted not just in his present love, but in his newly discovered past. The simple word mama, spoken so hesitantly and yet so powerfully in the courtroom, had thus set into motion a series of events that changed lives forever. It wasn't just about finding a home for Jamal. It was about rediscovering lost connections, mending broken hearts, and proving that destiny, in its own mysterious and often circuitous ways, has a plan, ensuring that love, in all its profound forms, finds its rightful place in the grand tapestry of life. Jamal's story became a testament to resilience, to the unyielding power of hope, and to the enduring strength of family. While the paths were twisted and the journey arduous, love emerged triumphant, bridging gaps and healing old wounds. It served as a poignant reminder that even in the vast, complex maze of life, connections can be found, and family ties, no matter how frayed, can be restored in the most unexpected and beautiful of ways, proving that sometimes the end of one chapter is simply the beginning of a magnificent, unforeseen story. This story, like so many others, proves that love always finds a way. If Jamal's journey moved you, give this video a like. Your support means the world. What was your favorite moment in this incredible tale? Let me know in the comments below. And for more inspiring stories to stick with you, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next.